This just told us everything about the future of Billy Donovan. Of course, we just seen the great Greg Popovich step away from his head coaching duties there in San Antonio. And with Billy Donovan now being the fourth longest tenured coach for the Chicago Bulls, we get to see how he's led the team and ask ourselves the question, how much rope does he have left with the Chicago Bulls? Hello, my name is Isaias Jackson Jr. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Bulls Digest. We get to look at the record of Billy Donovan with his tenure with the Chicago Bulls, how he's done so far, how this team is being led, not just with him, but with the GM as well, just how it's going with the front office. And of course, we get to see how much rope Billy Donovan has left with the Chicago Bulls. And do you want to see him continue to lead this team? However, 67.5% of you guys are not subscribed. 32.5% of you guys are. I know the playoffs are heating up. It's only getting hotter. However, the Chicago Bulls news is only getting hotter as well. We got news coming all over the place, and Bulls Digest is here to continue to give that to you guys. And we're also going to have some fun doing it as well. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and let's have some fun as well. The Spurs, stunning coaching change. It highlights Bulls' rare continuity. And it's not even just the Bulls' continuity. I think that's just the NBA all around, because as you're seeing, you can be in a playoff race, in the midst of a playoff race, and of course your job is not safe. And so that says a lot about where we're at right now in the present sense of the NBA. So, of course, the rarity of coaching continuity in present-day NBA is jarring. Spoelstra and Kerr are the only coaches who have remained with the same franchises since the 2010s. Thibodeau, Donovan, and Tyronn Lue of the Clippers, and Mark Daigneault as well, began their tenures in 2020. Three of the top five longest tenured coaches to start the seasons are no longer with their respective franchises, including Popovich, Taylor Jenkins, and, of course, Michael Malone. Although there have been plenty dismay surrounding Donovan, the 59-year-old outperformed expectations a season ago, and despite calls for changes made from the fan base, continuity prevails against constant modification. And yeah, that's all we've been seeing is just constant modification, whether that's with the starting lineup, whether that's just with the team's roster in general, and we're seeing with coaches as well, as we've seen Patton has just been let go with the Chicago Bulls, and now a whole lot is changing. Donovan, there's no reason to also continue to give that man rope after rope after rope, because you've seen, of course, with the constant substitution change problems that a lot of us have seen. We've seen Zach Lavine and Kobe White voice their frustrations in game, and of course in the media room as well, with their frustrations with coaching, and it's everywhere. That's why it's kind of hard to give Billy Donovan a whole lot of grace, although there have been a great amount of modifications. You did see the likes of Buzelis kind of rise, but that was, of course, after seeing him getting snubbed for a decent amount of minutes early on in the season. What the fans saw in Buzelis, I think we saw it a whole lot earlier than what Billy Donovan and, of course, the front office has seen as well. As we saw a whole lot of a whole lot of fans scratching and clawing to see Buzelis get a whole lot more minutes as the season was progressing. He finally got it, of course, but that was one of the biggest problems we saw early on into this season as well, which brought major problems. So, of course, after a disappointing 2023-2024 campaign that yielded 39 wins and saw DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso depart in the offseason, Donovan completely shifted Chicago's play style in 2024-2025. Instead of a slow, methodical offense and abstained from taking threes, the Bulls forced the action, playing at the second fastest pace and launching the third most threes per game, a vast difference from ranking 28th in pace and 26th in three-point attempts. And I thought that was a great thing as well. And even with calling it a methodical pace, compared to the 2023-2024 season, I thought one of the things that were a huge problem was transition threes. Although it could be methodical, 9 times out of 10, they weren't letting at least 5 to 7 seconds get off the shot clock without, whether it's a transition three or just somebody just going up the court, Zach Lavine or Kobe White, or DeMar DeRozan himself, just pretty much jogging up to the three-point line and chucking up a three when we can't even get a play to develop. I thought that was one of the biggest problems as well. It wasn't a whole lot of control in that offense when you looked at it as well. So the shift in play style was radical, yet it led to 39 wins despite a sharp concurrent talent decline. the Bulls lost their leading scorer in the offseason and their second leading scorer in the midseason. Still, even after jettisoning Zach Lavine at the trade deadline, Donovan led Chicago to a 17-13 record post trade deadline. Of course, Donovan's adjustment from a four-guard lineup to inserting rookie Buzelis into the starting group was one of the better adjustments last season, something that we just recently talked about. Helped a whole lot. Of course, we saw a whole lot of Patrick Williams as well. He had to get the boot. You know, we saw enough of Patrick Williams. That was as much as we was going to get from the man. Just talking about in terms of career-wise, what we've seen, it's just a 10-point player, 10-point per game player, and that's what we were just going to get. Buzelis really opened up the offense with the Chicago Bulls. Josh Giddey helps out a whole lot with the spacing of the floor. The man can move the ball. He's a great facilitator as well. And you're getting the Kobe, and I love Kobe White not playing point. Kobe White can't play point, don't get me wrong, but I do think having the ball out of his hands helps out a whole lot. And I know I talk about Phoenix a decent amount, but even coming from Phoenix, that was one of the things that they really stressed about with Devin Booker. Need a point guard, cannot have the ball in Devin Booker's hands. We need him roaming around. We need to have him free off ball. And so we can keep him open for more screens, get him open at the three, and he can be able to knock him down and do his thing. Kobe White, I could see him being in the exact same position. And, of course, I think it's built nicely in just terms of this starting lineup was just built nicely. And then, of course, you have Vucevic down low. Although he's going to be gone, we predict he's going to be gone really soon. You're seeing Nikola Vucevic dominate on the offensive boards and, of course, pick up the pace on the offensive side as well when he was averaging close to 20 points and 10 rebounds a game. So you're getting some great value, and that's what you love to see. But obviously, of course, it didn't come with a great amount of success. It did after the trade deadline. It did after the All-Star break. But unfortunately, it didn't do a whole lot for the Chicago Bulls as we still saw them get the boot in the play-in. So Donovan should be judged by his future endeavors. I think that's honestly a great point there because the Bulls 2024-25 campaign hit the reset button. Chicago purged its veterans and, as mentioned, revamped its offense. Thus, Donovan essentially is starting fresh. He should be judged for his future endeavors and not what has occurred in the past with a far different roster. So with constant roster shakeups in the NBA, continuity among coaching staffs is becoming of the essence. For instance, of course, the Phoenix Suns have employed 3 different coaches in the past 3 seasons while maintaining a similar roster construction. Accordingly, the Suns went 45-37, 49-33, and 36-46. Of course, different variables exist, but abrupt coaching changes aren't always the answer. And I think the Phoenix Suns are a great example there. Everything always was the problem outside of just looking at instead of just looking at it internally, instead of just looking at maybe this roster that you built up isn't up to par, isn't where you exactly need it to be, because you've seen they were going to flail in the playoffs once they had Kevin Durant, of course, once he twisted his ankle. But you've seen all the things that declined with the Phoenix Suns. They threw Frank Vogel under the bus. You get a new coach, nothing changes. And there's a lot of youth on this team with the Chicago Bulls. So if you're going to make that change to replace Billy Donovan, at this point in time, you need somebody that's going to come in and provide that help for the youth if you don't feel as though Billy Donovan isn't the man to do so. So expecting Donovan to coach the Bulls for nearly 30 seasons is implausible, of course, comparing them to the likes of Greg Popovich. But so is giving up on the Hall of Fame coach in a matter of seasons. If there's a takeaway from Popovich's transition, is that the NBA has been rather hasty in head coaching decisions in recent seasons, and as evidenced by the Suns and among other teams, the grass isn't always greener. So we can always go out there and scream, get rid of Billy Donovan, it's time for a change, but of course that's never always going to be the answer. We could just look at the Pistons as well. Even though the Pistons didn't have the correct roster structure, they hired Monty Williams for a crazy amount of money, and he could only give them one season. It was one of the worst seasons that they've seen in a very, very long time. So, of course, you can't just go out there and pick a high-quality coach, somebody like a Monty Williams, somebody like a Frank Vogel, and expect them to be good with the youth of the team. And he could pretty much come through and tank this whole thing and bring this whole thing down. You see where Detroit is at now. Well, eliminated, but you've seen where they were. And now, of course, that was just with the coaching change as well to lead a youthful team. So who could be that guy? Is that guy Billy Donovan? Right now he has 195 and 205 record with the Bulls in his coaching career. And honestly, I don't think that's too horrible when you look at just the mess that he had to deal with throughout the 5 seasons of him being here. We thought Zach Lavine, Kobe White, and DeMar DeRozan was going to be a nice startup to this team. Was going to be a nice setup. We thought Kobe White was going to learn so much, which he has, from the likes of Zach Lavine and from the likes of DeMar DeRozan, which he talks about a lot. But now it's just a matter of what are you going to do with this revamped roster, with this team that they are entrusting you with, and how are they going to grow when it's all said and done? If the Chicago Bulls could get themselves a playoff spot come next season, Billy Donovan's job is kept. Billy Donovan, of course, will remain the longest tenured coach, one of the four longest tenured coaches in the NBA. It's just a matter of how is this team going to build up and rise up above everything that's going on. We see the potential. We see the ceiling for this team. This team is built for something that could be huge in the upcoming years. It's just a matter of, number one, how is this roster going to shake up? How is this roster going to build up for the years to come? And what is Billy Donovan going to do to continually adjust? The East is only getting better. The East is only getting better. So if you're going to continue to struggle up against the Miami Heat, if your ceiling is going to be the Miami Heat, then Billy Donovan, of course, definitely wouldn't be your guy. But what do you think? How much rope do you think Billy Donovan has? Do you see Billy Donovan staying here for a long period of time? Do you trust Billy Donovan with the youth of this coaching the youth of this franchise? Or do you think it's just best to move on? However, we do got to give him this year. We do got to give him this year real fast to see how this team develops. And, of course, if he gets off to a slow start, I wouldn't be shocked if the Chicago Bulls didn't hesitate to give him the boot mid-season and see if they could work something out as they continue to grow. But what do you think? Where do you see Billy Donovan landing within the next couple years? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.